Yep, we're good now. Yep, perfect. Yep, I'm ready to go. Cool. I'm on. I believe that I am actually live on YouTube now. I hope I am. If any of you guys are out there, you're waiting to join the live, say something in the chat so I know that you're there. And it's been a little while since I've done a YouTube live, so I'm excited about doing it actually, just to have some interaction with a few you guys out there, some of you people who watch my videos, etc. I'm here to help. So, yep. We're not going to start our teaching for a few minutes. I'm just going to allow a few minutes for people to join, and then we'll start tonight's estuary fishing training, which will be good. Troy's there. G'day, Troy. How are you, mate? Thanks for joining. Matt's there as well. Fantastic. Excellent. It's interesting, it's great being able to have the chat to see who's there. And Koala, okay, from Anna Bay, awesome. So this is good. It's I think this is the third live. Actually, it might be the fourth live that I've done. So I'm getting a little bit of practice at it. It's been a while. Okay, excellent. Okay. Very good. So I hope some of you guys have been fishing, or beach fishing, maybe estuary fishing. I'm pretty busy. I'm actually planning on going fishing off the beach tomorrow evening, and conditions look pretty good, and so I'm excited about that. Actually, I've just got to decide where I'm going to go fishing. I don't know yet where I'm going to go, but I'm going to go and check. I'm going to go and have a look around tomorrow morning, just see what the ocean's doing, see which way the swell is coming. There's not supposed to be too much wind. Actually, there's supposed to be a northeast wind in the afternoon, and high tide is, I think it's about 7:10. So it should be really good for a beach fish tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get some good footage of a few interesting creatures coming in. Hopefully I can catch a few nice things to eat, would be good. Okay. All right. Okay, well tonight I'm doing some teaching on estuary, specifically about estuary fishing. We're going to look at different baits that we can use in the estuary, which are effective and good. I'm going to show you how I put them on the hook, etc. And it's sort of coinciding with the launch of my new estuary fishing course, which I've been working on for the last couple of months. And we'll have 27 videos in the estuary course. And that estuary course will be available for all Rogers Fishing members as part of the membership. You can purchase the course on its own, or it's just one of the benefits of being one of our online fishing club members. So I am about to start the teaching, and we may as well just get started, and hopefully some other people can join and benefit from that. Tonight's teaching is on estuary fishing, a best baits overview. Plus also I'm going to be going into great detail. I'm going to be going into detail on 4 fantastic estuary fishing baits. Plus, afterwards, there's going to be a live Q&A session. So I will be just staying here on YouTube. I love spending time with you guys, even though I can't actually see you. I enjoy the relationship, and I enjoy helping people. So I'm happy to stay here for as long as you like and answer your questions. So please make sure after this session, make sure that you stay, and we can discuss everything fishing. So let's get into it. You're in the right place If you've spent hundreds of dollars on fishing gear, but you don't know where to start, unfortunately, there's lots of people in that place because they just don't have anyone who's willing to share their knowledge with them. And you're also in the right place if you would like to consistently catch fish. That's me. I'm putting my hand up. I love consistently catching fish. Now, the average fisherman spends a lot of money on equipment. And I'm going to list a few things, but I'm sure that you guys are aware of even more than what I'm putting down. So if you're going to set yourself up for estuary fishing and you want to have a couple of rods and reels, just buying moderate quality, you could easily spend a few $100s on rods and reels. Line and leader, braid, monofilament, fluorocarbon, probably spend more than $100. A backpack, some basic equipment, terminal tackle, and if you're buying bait, just a bit of bait for maybe one session would cost you about maybe $30. And all of that adds up to nearly $1,000, and that doesn't include things like petrol and other things that I can't even think of. So we spend a lot of money on our fishing gear. We actually want to get a return on our investment. So a lot of people don't know where to fish. You have all the equipment, you don't know where to fish, don't know when to fish. You know, what's the best season, what's the best time of day, what's the best tide, etc. Sunny weather, dull weather. Don't know which bait to use. People lack confidence with using baits and what's really going to work, and they have doubts about that. And also, what rig should I use for a particular bait? What is the best way to present my bait, and what's the most effective? So I find that there's actually a lot of fishermen who are like this fellow in the cartoon in the boat. It's like you got all the stuff, but it's like, man, why aren't I catching fish? And I get lots of people, especially now with my YouTube channel, I get lots of people reaching out to me for help. And I'm happy to help all the time, as you would know by my videos. And I'm just going to give you a very quick history of who I am. Obviously, I've been fishing all of my life since I was, younger than 10 years of age. But it's only in the last 5 or 6 years that I've been making YouTube videos. And I just realized, my whole motivation for making the videos is not to boast about catching fish. My whole motivation is helping people. And what I really focus on is trying to communicate in a clear way details about fishing that will help you to catch more fish. So that's what I do on my YouTube channel. And I get a lot of comments from people saying how much I've helped them, which really just inspires me to continue what I'm doing, because it means that I'm achieving my goal of actually teaching people in a way that they can understand and then apply it, which is the whole thing. Now, this fellow here, Martin Gray, he left this awesome comment here about this particular video that I made. He says, "Thank you so much, mate. You have no idea how happy you've made me." Those sorts of comments are awesome. And I actually noticed that Martin left a comment yesterday on a new video that I just put up. So Martin, I don't know if you're watching tonight, if you're here on YouTube, but g'day, mate. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them. And I appreciate everyone's comments. I read nearly all the comments. I try to be diligent with that and reply to as many as I can. I also work as a beachworming guide. I teach people how to catch beachworms, which is great fun. And, if you're someone who wants to learn how to catch beachworms, I can teach you in one lesson. And then you have a skill for life. Or you can watch some of my YouTube videos. And I've had a number of people tell me how they've gone from catching no worms to catching beachworms just by watching my YouTube videos. I also do fishing guiding, or that's something that, while I'm happy to do it, you know, it takes a lot of time to do one-on-one stuff. And I think that my time, I can help more people by creating YouTube videos and also by building my Rogers Fishing website and creating fishing courses. So this is just a little video where I was giving this fellow, Ken Robinson, a casting lesson, because I was going to take Ken beach fishing and he really had very little experience for beach fishing, and I thought it's important to be able to at least be able to cast. So this is just a little shot.
Hold it like that, and it went about 10 feet. Great.
Now, Ken, were you seriously trying then?
I was.
You were?
Yeah, I was.
It didn't look like it.
Roger, get me off the camera. I'm embarrassing myself. Come and tell me what I need to do.
All right, Ken. Okay.
Come and tell me what I need to do.
Now, Ken, yeah, that's it. Wind it in.
At least I know how to do that part.
Ken actually, he picked it up pretty quick. You know, I actually tied a large float onto the end of the line because it's really visual and it helps you to see, you know, where your line's going when you're casting. And Ken's cast really doubled, tripled in distance, and his accuracy improved pretty quick. So then after that, I took him down to the beach for a fish. And this is Ken.
What do you got on there?
I have no idea. Ken, what have you caught? What have I caught?
Ken, that's your first fish off the beach.
Oh, look at this.
Look at the size of that.
Wow, look at that.
That's bigger than lava.
Wow, look at that. I mean, I thought yours was large when you brought it in. Now in comparison, look at that.
I never get tired of watching those videos because, you know, it gives me so much joy seeing people have fun and be successful with their fishing. Now, I just, obviously I've got lots of fishing photos and I fish all the time, but I'm just going to show you a couple of quick shots. I do a lot of different types of fishing, beach fishing, rock fishing. So there's just a mulloway I caught one morning, another big mulloway. I've caught my fair share of big mulloway and ones in between. I used to fish, I was the president of a fishing club on the Northern Beaches in Sydney for 10 years, and I used to run fishing competitions, and I mainly specialised in fishing for snapper and mulloway / jewfish and kingfish. And you can see that I got my bag limit of snapper with a friend in this particular day in the boat. You can see I've got more hair then. See the top of my head, at least I had hair. But we had emptied the snapper onto the floor of the boat so that we could count them, so that we made sure that we weren't going over our bag limit at the time. Here's a couple of snapper that I've caught while I'm only recently moved down to the south coast near Ulladulla, and these are a couple of snapper from the Ulladulla area. Sometimes I wear a wetsuit when I go fishing off the rocks or different things. It's just a good safety thing, keeps you warm and protects you from scratching yourself. Alrighty, and then that's a kingfish that I caught. That kingfish was 15 kilos. That's how much it weighed. So it was a reasonable fish to land on 10 kilo line. Now, tonight's lesson, tonight's training, my goal is to show you some excellent baits that will get you catching fish. So the baits that I'm going to be focusing on mainly tonight, I use all the time. And when I say that, I use them really from week to week, regularly, and catch lots of fish. So these baits, I'm giving you the best information that I have in the baits that I'm teaching about tonight. So where are you on your fishing journey? Are you what I call a dreamer? That means that you have the vision of yourself catching great fish, but need clear direction. Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, you have a desire, but you're just not sure where to start, and you don't really have a mentor or anyone to help you. That's quite common. Or you are what I call a newbie. That means that you are a complete beginner and you've started, but you just lack knowledge. You need some help. Or you are what I call a try-hard. I love try-hards. You're committed and putting in the time, but you're not having the success that you would like. The good thing about someone who's a try-hard, and believe me, I've been a try-hard at different times, is that you have passion and enthusiasm and you're actually doing it. You're actually out there, you know, you're enjoying your fishing, you're getting into it, you just want to have some more success. Or you are what I call a catcher, and that is someone who's kicking goals, but you have the desire to increase your skills and target trophy fish. So I think, you know, a lot of us are in that zone as well, but we just want to continue learning. And that's one of the things that I love about fishing is I'm like a sponge. I'm constantly learning every time I go down to the beach or the rocks or fish in the lake. So the end goal is to become a skilled angler. So what would we call a skilled angler? We'd say that a skilled angler is someone who consistently has success catching fish, and they get a lot of enjoyment out of having that skill and achieving goals with their fishing. So how do we become a skilled angler? How do we get there? The greatest need for all of us when it comes to fishing is knowledge and strategy. I've found over my years of fishing, honestly, you can have all the best equipment and the best bait, but without knowledge and strategy, man, it really is like being in the dark. That's why I always ask so many questions of fishermen. I try to be respectful, but I'm really always trying to learn. And that's why I'm doing this tonight on YouTube, is to help you get some knowledge and some strategy through all of the things that I do through my YouTube videos and my Rogers Fishing website. So what we're doing, we're going to get into the actual bait part now, is I'm going to be doing an overview, a basic overview of effective estuary baits. There are many effective baits to use in our estuaries, and some of the better ones are. Now I'm just doing this verbally. I'm going to read out a list of baits that I know are very, very good, but then I've chosen 4 of those baits to focus on. So I'm quickly going to go through the list now. If you wanted to write these things down, you could always go back to this video. It'll be recorded on YouTube, and then you could just replay it. So we're looking at live mullet. We're also looking at mullet fillet, so dead mullet, mullet fillet, prawns, live prawns. Not many people use live prawns for bait, but they are an incredible bait, especially at night. Using live prawns, flathead, you brain the flathead on live prawns, and big bream and whiting. Also nippers, which are called yabbies as well. Worms. When it comes to using worms in the estuary, you can use beach worms very effectively, but there's also what I call bloodworms and squirt worms. Then we come to pilchards. Pilchards can be used whole, they can be used cut in half, and they can be sliced and used as a fillet bait. Very effective. I do all 3. I fish with pilchards whole, in half, and pilchard fillets. Also, whitebait is a bait that doesn't get used a lot, but is just an amazing bait in the estuary. And in my new estuary fishing course, I go into detail of every single one of these baits, how to rig them and how to use them. Also, crabs are fantastic bait for bream and other species in the estuaries, and you can find them around the shore under rocks and logs and things. Shrimps, which are like little baby prawns, are very good. Cockles are very similar to pippies, like what you find on the beach, and they're in a lot of the estuaries, and they're a very good bait. Squid, I won't go into a lot of detail about squid, but it is a premium bait for a lot of our favourite species. Bread. Bread is a very good bait, obviously primarily for mullet, but I've also caught brim, snapper, a lot of brim on bread in the estuaries, snapper and also flathead. And then dough, homemade dough, which is made from flour and water or a bit of milk with parmesan cheese in it and maybe a little dash or two of tuna oil. Some people have their own special recipes, but dough is a killer bait. It's very inexpensive. It can mold onto your hook, and brim absolutely love it, along with other species as well. So now we're just going to move forward into the specifics of what we're looking at tonight. And for tonight's lesson, I will be covering 4 excellent baits that account for millions of fish that are caught in our lakes and river systems. I will be discussing 2 frozen baits that you can readily buy, and also 2 fresh baits that you can catch yourself. The reason I'm doing 2 frozen and 2 fresh is because, very often we don't have time to go and catch our own fresh bait. So we want to know, what can I buy from a service station or a tackle shop that I can have confidence using that will be good to catch fish? So we're going to look into that. So the first one we're going to look at is pilchards, and I've called it pilchards 3 ways. And I've got a little video we're going to look at now that I've put together for you and have a look at how to prepare pilchards. Now, pilchards are actually an amazing bait. They're very readily available from service stations, tackle shops, everywhere. Now, I'm going to show you 3 different ways to use a pilchard. The first way is using ganged hooks. So I'm using a set of 3 ganged hooks. You can see these ones are used. I just got them straight out of my bag. I've used them a couple of times. So you line it up so that the top hook goes through the eye. So that gives you an idea where your bottom hook needs to go, because you put that one in first, so that you know where your top hook's going to end up. So if I grab this pilchard, I'm going to put my first hook in the middle of the pilchard about there. I'm going to pull that up, and then I'm going to swing it around, put my second hook through the middle of the pilchard also, sliding the hook through there like so. Then my third hook, you can see, is just going to go through that eye cavity so that I have the whole pilchard like that. Now, the 3 different setups I'm going to show you with the pilchards all have a leader with a swivel, and then the main line comes down to the swivel with a running sinker on the main line. When I'm using a whole pilchard, I like to keep the leader fairly short because it's a long bait, probably only 20 centimetres, because otherwise it just flaps around in the air too much, because the bait itself is quite a long bait. You don't need to have a shorter leader if you're using a more aerodynamic bait. The next way we can use a pilchard is by using half a pilchard. And what I like to do when I cut them is I cut them in half on an angle, like so. And I use both halves of the pilchard. I guess I'm exposing more flesh that way, and I also like to trim the tail. I know it's only a small detail, but it does make it more aerodynamic. So in this case here, I am using a 3/0 suicide hook. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the hook through towards the tail end of the pilchard. Sorry about that. Just above the backbone.
Just say that sentence again. No, you don't need to just say the sentence again.
So what I'm doing is I'm putting the hook through near the tail end of the pilchard, just above the backbone. You can see it going through there, going through both sides. Then I pull it all the way through. So you can see the lines actually going through there. Then once it's all the way through, I place the hook just above the backbone, because you can't put the barb through the backbone. But I want it to go through the middle of the fish, so I'll do that. You can see where the hook's gone through like that, and then I'll just lie it around on its side. And when you have the line through there like that, you can just pull the line taut. So now it's sitting flat. You can see the hook is sitting flat in that half pilchard bait there, and then the barb of the hook is exposed there. Then once again, I do a half hitch around the tail of the pilchard. That holds it all in place beautifully. That's actually a cracking bait. You'll catch so many different fish on that. It's a really good brim bait, good for flathead. Anything that loves a nice oily fish will eat that bait. So that's the second way that you can rig a pilchard, is with a half pilchard. And if you look at one of my other videos on baits, I show you how to rig a the head part of the pilchard. The third way to use a pilchard, which is a way that I really like, is by using pilchard fillet. So I'm going to fillet this pilchard like I would any other fish, although essentially I'm going to put the knife in and just slide it along the backbone of the pilchard like so. You can see if I pull that off the pilchard there, you can see I've filleted it. This is a cracking bait. It's such a great bait for bream. It's actually a very soft bait, so if you were to fillet some pilchards and salt them, that certainly would make it a bit stronger and tougher. Now what you do, I do this if I'm fishing for bream. I'm just going to trim it a little bit. I'm not going to get two baits out of this. I'm going to focus on, use the other bit for burley. I'm going to go like that. And in this case I'm using a 1/0 hook, 1/0 hook. And all I'm going to do here is, you've got to be gentle with it, is I'm going to put this through, all the way through that flesh. Then I'm going to hook it through again. Get that line out of the way. And then hook it through again so that the barb's coming out down towards the end of the fillet. Down there. Then I'm just going to pull that slack line up so that you've got your fillet like that. And yes, once again we'll hold that in place up the top with a 1/2 hitch. Now that is an amazing bait. Quite delicate. Really soft. I tell you what, the fish just suck that up like you wouldn't believe. It's a really, really good bream bait. Very simple to rig up, and as with all the other rigs, there is a leader attached to a swivel, and then you've got your main line coming down to the swivel with a running ball sinker above the swivel. I can highly recommend that bait. Depending on the size of pilchards, you could actually get, I mean this is a small to medium sized pilchard, you could actually easily get 2 baits out of each side of the pilchard, so technically you're getting 4 baits out of a pilchard. Okay, well I trust you've enjoyed that little bit of information on pilchards. How good are pilchards? So versatile and really pretty good value for money, even though they're, you know what, $16 for a slab. You get a lot of baits out of one of them. So let's move on to the next bait. Now we're going to look at the prawn as a bait. These are a perennial bait. Prawns are an amazing bait for a whole variety of species. Now there's a couple of ways that you can rig them. I'm going to quickly show you both. I actually like to peel prawns. In this case these are what's called a Hawkesbury River prawn. So I'm going to, the shell's quite soft actually. Well, I'm trying to take the shell off on this one, but it's very soft. In fact, I'll just take the, there you go, I'll just peel it off like that. And then, where's my hook? There it is. Yeah, I like to use a peel prawn, and then I thread the prawn on by putting the hook in the tail of the prawn, threading it up the body, so that the prawn, you can leave that little bit on the end, looks attractive to a fish, so that you've got the prawn like that. The hook is fully immersed in the prawn. The prawn is a very soft bait, and once again we're going to hold that in place by doing a 1/2 hitch around the top of the prawn. Now that bait right there is a stunning bait. You could use this in any estuary or harbour with great results, fishing with a bait like that. I've actually caught big mulloway. I've been fishing for bream and caught big mulloway on peel prawns like that. I've caught more than one. I've caught a number of mulloway on peel prawns. But typically you will catch things like bream and trevally and flathead and really all of your estuary species. There's virtually nothing that won't eat a prawn bait like that. And that's how you do it. That's how you put it on. And just like with the other rigs, you have a leader with a swivel and a running sinker on your main line coming down to the hook. Now I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put a different prawn on. So I'm picking up another prawn. This time I'm going to put the prawn on. I'm going to put the whole thing on with its head on and the body. You still hook it the same way. You come in from the back end there and it's a little bit slippery, so I might need to wash my hands. Well, just got to put my hands in a bit of water. Yep, so essentially it's the same sort of thing. Can you see there how the hook is actually inside the prawn? I've threaded it on the same way as I've done when it's peeled, but I've left the prawn intact like that. And then I'm just going to do the half hitch again. Sorry. On the end of the prawn like that. And that's your whole prawn bait intact with its head and all its shell. I mean, obviously the fish are going to nail it both ways, but most of the time when I fish with it peeled like that. It's just the way I like it, and I catch zillions of fish using the peel prawn bait. So that's two baits we've looked at. We've looked at the pilchards, which are one of my favourite baits, and also the humble prawn, which honestly I can't speak more highly about prawns. And I did mention earlier that I often use live prawns, which it's not difficult to do. You go and spend 20 minutes in the dark netting a few live prawns, and they're an incredible bait. So now we're going to move from this to the next bait on our list of 4 baits, which is live mullet. Now I'm going to teach you, there's a couple of ways that you can rig a live mullet. I'm going to use this one because he's a reasonable size. He's quite a good size live mullet. I actually use these size ones quite a lot, and I find that even a 50 centimetre flathead can swallow this mullet, which would be about 12 or 13 centimetres. Now I'm going to grab my hook. You can see this kind of middle dorsal fin and then another one back here before you get to the tail. I normally hook the mullet in between these two fins. Now it's really important that you don't put the hook in the mullet's backbone. If I was to put the hook here into the backbone of the mullet, I would kill it. So I have to put the hook halfway between its backbone and the top of the fish. So technically I'm going to place the hook about there. If I put the hook through the mullet there, I won't kill it. Normally it's good to sort of move a couple of scales because sometimes it's hard for the hook to penetrate. So I've removed a couple of scales. Then I'm just going to use my thumb and hook that mullet through like that. You can see that guy, look, he's happily swimming along there. That's a good bait. Oh, I love live mullet. I wonder if you guys love live mullet. Now make sure that you put questions in the chat, because shortly I'm going to come back and I'll just be answering anybody's questions in the chat. I'll look forward to that time, look forward to a bit of banter. It'll be awesome. So now we're going to go into the next fresh bait, which is the humble nipper / yabby. So first of all, here we have a yabby pump. It's basically just a massive suction device. You've got the handle here, handle there, and you pull on the pump, and it's like a big plunger that sucks water and sand and stuff out and basically sucks the yabbies out of their holes. Now one of the major problems that people do when they go to pump is what they do with the pump is they actually push it down into the sand like that. So you can see that the handle's it has to be extended because it's been pushed down into the sand. But what happens when people do that, and then if I get this and lift it up, look what happens. I'm just going to lay a big sausage. Now you don't want a big sausage when you're going for yabbies. You're actually wanting mainly to have water with a little bit of the sand. You're wanting to get the maximum amount of suction. So typically what I do with my first pump, usually I will only pump once or maybe twice in a hole. Don't need to keep going deeper and deeper. I will only push my pump into the sand really about 8 centimeters, because then what I want to do is I want to draw on the pump and get as much suction as I can. So I'm going to give you an example of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my pump here. I'm going to poke it in a little bit and then draw up. And then I'm going to do it again like that. And you see, if you have a look here, we've got this guy here. He's got quite a big nipper, this guy. Look at him. Whoa. Those guys can draw blood if you actually let their nipper grab you. It's painful. So anyways, so I hope that helps you a little bit of with pumping technique, to make sure that you're not pushing the pump too far into the sand and just getting a huge sausage, but utilizing all that suction power to suck yabbies. I have obviously more information on all of these things in my new estuary fishing course that I've been working on for the last couple of months. And currently I'm well and truly into that course, and we'll have it finished very, very soon. So cut just a couple of images here of fish that I've caught in the lake where I live. The one on the left is a 88 centimeter flathead. That flathead was caught on a live mullet, and we released that flathead back into the water. That was prior to the new bag limits, where you can't keep a flathead above 70 centimeters in New South Wales, but we still released that flathead. And then on the right hand side, that brim was caught on a live mullet intended for a flathead, and it was 42 centimeters. So quite often you get really big brim when you're fishing with live mullet for bait. Okie doke, let's move on. So you may be someone, you have the gear, but you're frustrated because you just don't really know what to do. You need knowledge and strategy. And ongoing coaching is critical. Now, when I mention ongoing coaching in life, sometimes we have friends and we meet people who are just a natural mentor who can teach us about fishing. That's where I've always kind of tried to align myself with people who are successful at fishing and ask lots of questions. But we don't always have friends or people that we know who are willing to share their knowledge. And a lot of fishermen actually are quite secretive and don't want to share their knowledge. So how do we get that knowledge if we don't know anybody? So that's where what I do, what I've been doing through YouTube, can really make a difference. And as you know, I get a lot of fantastic comments from people who are really being helped by my videos. So mentoring is something that's very important if we want to actually become better at what we're doing, plus also community, being in relationship with other like-minded fishermen. So that is why I have created Roger's Fishing. So how do we get there? Well, you could employ me to teach you how to catch beach worms, or perhaps give you some beach fishing coaching, or as a fishing guide. And I'm quite happy to do that. Although it's not my main focus, because I love meeting people and taking them fishing, and I really do apply myself to help people learn. But obviously location and time limit my ability to help a lot of people that way. So that's where it's pretty awesome with YouTube, because I can actually provide information that helps a lot of people. And it's also why I created the Roger's Fishing website, and why I've been working on making fishing courses that help people. So welcome to Roger's Fishing. So with Roger's Fishing, we have a fortnightly Zoom teaching plus Q&A. So when you're a member of Rogers Fishing, you can actually join us if it works for you. We normally do it every second Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. and I'm usually on the Zoom for about 2 hours. I may teach for between 30 minutes to an hour, but then we always hang around and there's lots of questions and we have a great time discussing all things fishing on the Q&As. I have the Beach Fishing Masterclass course on my website, which has 15 videos. The new Estuary Fishing course, which lays a great foundation for all types of lake and river fishing. That has more than 27 videos in that course, plus my Beach Worming Masterclass course, which includes 3 videos, which I'm about to redo that course, and it will probably expand to about 7 videos. Then we have our private membership community, which it's like a Facebook group. However, it's not Facebook. We wanted to have something that was secure and not part of Facebook, because you just don't know with Facebook. They can do all sorts of things. So we actually have our own platform where we have our own membership community. And also on the Rogers Fishing website, there's a growing library of instructional content. This is just an example of a couple of the modules in the Beach Fishing Masterclass. Starts off with the first one, planning your fishing trip, and then rod and reel setup. You've got standard gear list, choosing your location. Choosing your location is a really big one. How to decide where you're going to go fishing, etc. So if you would like to join Rogers Fishing, my website, which is really like an online fishing club, this is what it costs to join. Essentially, a 3-month membership costs $90, 6 months $150, and 12 months $240. It actually, the longer you join for, like for example, $240 works out at $20 a month, as opposed to $30 a month for a 3-month membership. However, when you are a member, you have instant access to all of my fishing courses, which includes the Beach Fishing Masterclass, the Worming Masterclass, the Estuary course. You have the ongoing coaching through the community and also the Zooms. So I know, for example, my Estuary fishing course is $249 if you buy it, but it's actually $27 plus another 4 or 5 videos. It's more than 30 videos in that Estuary fishing course, and that alone is $249, but you get access to everything as a member of Rogers Fishing. It's something that I'm really enjoying, because I actually made some great friends all around Australia.
You put my
fishing
audio
in
on
different
in 30
areas,
seconds.
and we all have a lot to share, a lot of collective knowledge, which is growing
Well, I have
all
to
the
talk to
time.
them.
Yep.
So it would be
I'm on. Hey guys, how you going? Now I believe there's a couple of questions. A question from Dave about fishing for squid. Can I give an insight into catching squid? Okay, Dave, I'll answer your question. Well, it depends on where you live. Squid can be caught in harbours. Like Sydney Harbour is an amazing place for squid. Anywhere you need to have rocks, and you need to have like a weed bottom, a combination of weed and rocks. Sometimes you have that thin ribbon weed. Other times it doesn't have to be ribbon weed, it can be kelp, but you need weed and rocks. Like typically where I live on the south coast, the harbour at Ulladulla is a good place for squid, because you've got, you know, a typical harbour situation where there's wharves, there's lots of weed and rocks. It's a very good spot in the harbour. Anywhere off the rocks is good for squid. Most places off the rocks where you have a reefy, weedy bottom is good. If you are doing it in enclosed waters, like in a harbour, you really do need the weed beds. You're not going to catch squid over a sand bottom. Like for example, I live near Baril Lake. I wouldn't expect to catch squid in Baril Lake. I have caught one on a soft plastic one time when I was fishing for flathead. I caught a big squid, but that's pretty rare. However, if I want to catch squid here where I live, I go to the harbour, or there's lots of places off the rocks here which are good for squid.
The main thing is that you want to go somewhere protected, which is not rough, where the waves aren't too big, because you want to stay safe. You don't want to put yourself in any kind of harm on the rocks. But I've had some awesome squidding times locally on the rocks. So hopefully that helps. I'm not sure where you live, Dave, but you really need to sort of focus on rocky headlands, bays, harbours, and places where there's ribbon weed, or around wharves is often very good, because the squid feed on small fish. Small fish are attracted to wharves because on the pylons of wharves you've got oysters and weed and all sorts of whole little communities of baby fish, and that attracts squid. The other thing is, when you're squid fishing, it's good to let the squid jig sink. It's a bit of a trade-off because you don't want to get stuck on the bottom, but you don't throw out a squid jig and troll it in like a normal lure. You need to let it dive down close to the bottom, because often the squid are hanging down low. Okay, so I have another question from Frizzle. I hope you're still there, Frizzle. You've asked me, am I based north or south coast? I'm based on the south coast, near Ulladulla. I used to live at Narrabeen on the northern beaches. For most of my life, really, I did a lot of fishing all up and down the northern beaches, off the rocks, outside in the ocean. I used to launch my boat off Long Reef, but at the moment I go outside fishing for snapper. I launch my boat in Ulladulla Harbour. I fish the local lakes. I fish the beaches in the Ulladulla area. Okay, so the next question is from Barstad 100. Do you fish from the rocks? I love rock fishing. Oh my gosh. It's one of my favourite things. I've done so much rock fishing. Not so much of late, because I've been making a lot of beach fishing videos just because it's helping people, and I mean, it's enjoyable beach fishing, but I've probably done more rock fishing than beach fishing in my life. And it certainly is a big passion of mine. So I haven't started making any rock fishing videos as yet, but I definitely plan to really soon, actually. I'm going to start making rock fishing videos for the major species that people fish for off the rocks. But I'd also like to teach people around understanding the rocks, understanding the waves, fishing safely off the rocks. I've fished off the rocks for more than 40 years. I've never been any harm. I've fished in some really, really rough weather. However, even in big seas, there are places that you can fish that are protected and safe. So it's all about where you fish, the conditions where you fish, what species you're going for, etc. So, yeah, so I'm keen to do that. So Frizzle, you've asked, can you still buy alvies? I believe you can. I haven't bought one recently. A couple of my Rogers Fishing members have been purchasing alvies. I believe they've said to me that someone has purchased the alvie business, but they are keeping the levels of stock fairly simple at alvie. I own a number of alvies. I've done a lot of fishing with alvie reels, and I love using them. They're awesome, really good. So, okay, Borstat, is that B-A-R or B-O-R? Barstat, sorry, 100. Are there snapper land-based? Yes, I do both. I fish land-based for snapper quite a bit, but I mean I also like fishing out of my tinny. I've only got a relatively small boat, so I stick to within a couple of kilometres of the coast, but you don't have to go out very far in a boat to catch snapper. I like fishing in close, in shallow water, but I also love rock fishing for snapper as well. So that's something. It's one of those things, because where I live there's some amazing snapper fishing off the rocks, but you just can't do everything. You know, there goes my phone. You can't do everything. You know, I can't fish every single day. Okay, Frizzle, you're back again. Should you use circle hooks? Can you use octopus hooks? honestly, guys, I actually haven't used a circle hook yet in my life. I know a little bit about them. I've read, I've heard, you know, various testimonies about circle hooks and the reason why people use circle hooks. But I haven't done it yet. I just mainly use octopus hooks and suicide hooks, but undoubtedly I will try some circle hooks at some point. SNW exports. How much is the masterclass for beach worming? That video series is $79. If you think about it, you know, you buy one live beach worm, you buy one beach worm frozen about 30 centimeters long, it costs $5. But a bag, if you catch your bag limit of beach worms at $5 each, the bag limit's 20 beach worms, that's $100. So really it should be, that's a bargain for $79. Okay, other questions? Alrighty, just gonna look here, scroll down through the questions. Alrighty, okay. Covenant. Roger, I catch squid most days and pretty much only use them beach fishing down the coast. If you had a pick, worms, mullet or squid, which would you say is the best for the beach? That's an interesting one. That's it's more to do with what you're fishing for, Kevin. If I was just fishing for bream and whiting, I'd pick worms. Bream like squid. Mulloway is a very, very good bait for mulloway fresh squid. So yeah, it does. I mean, and actually, of course, plenty of salmon on squid, and also, yeah, a whole number of species on squid. Mullet, fresh mullet. I actually would put squid ahead of mullet if you're using a slab bait of mullet. Live mullet are a great bait. But yeah, I think it depends a little bit more on what you want to actually fish for or the species that you want to catch. If you just want to go down and catch a few eating fish, then worms are a really good bait. Okay, so we have Blake Kirkwood. Can you do video on blackfish? The good old blackfish, the good old Luderick. I used to fish for blackfish a lot in my teenage years, up until I was about 20. The lake where I lived, on the run-in tide at the entrance of the lake, there was a lot of run. I could do. I mean, where I live, there's zillions of blackfish where I live, so it's one of the things that are on my list to do. On my to-do list is to do a Luderick video. I actually even have some greenweed frozen in my freezer because there are certain times of the year where the stringweed is more prevalent than others, and it does freeze really well. So I've got some greenweed in the freezer, so hopefully I can get onto that. Although the next video that I'm going to do will be another beach fishing video tomorrow night. I'm planning to fish off the beach tomorrow night, and at the moment I'm working to finish my estuary fishing course. So over the next 2 or 3 weeks I'm hoping to have that fully completed. At the moment we have probably half of the course has been filmed, and we are currently releasing the estuary course to Rogers Fishing members 2 videos a week. So I'm certainly on track with that, but the whole course will be finished soon. So I've got a number of things that I'm focusing on. And doing the estuary course involves me going fishing in my local estuary for specific species of fish, because I'll be doing videos on every major target species, where with each fish species in the estuary course I'm doing where to fish, when to fish, what bait to use and what gear you need, plus a lot of other information. So it's going to be fun. In the next few weeks I'm going to be targeting a whole bunch of things in the lake and filming that, as well as doing regular beach fishing videos as well. Okay, so I've got Philip Vasallo. Are bloodworms good for bream fishing? Yeah, bloodworms are awesome. I wish I could get bloodworms where I live. It's like, I've had a look in the lake where I live and I can't find any bloodworms. I've found squirtworms. So there is a certain amount of squirtworms which are good for whiting and bream. When I used to live at Narrabeen in Sydney, Narrabeen Lake is full of bloodworms. It's a great place to get bloodworms. And really, I'd even prefer bloodworms to beachworms off the beach for whiting. Bloodworms are deadly on whiting. Okie doke. So, just going to have a look and see what other questions we've got coming. But it's great of all you guys to join me here tonight. I really appreciate it. I do, when you put comments in my videos, I do read the comments and try to reply to as many as possible. And I really appreciate all the comments that you make. It certainly encourages me and inspires me with the videos. This has been a relatively new thing for me in the last few years because obviously I've been fishing all the time, but I never really knew that I would be doing what I'm currently doing in making the YouTube videos. But it's like anything, the more you do it, you kind of relax into it and get more confidence with it. Okay, Philip asks, do you use chicken fillet as bait? I haven't. I know some guys swear by it, but I wouldn't have a problem with using chicken fillet. Some guys like to coat it in garlic. Don't know what difference the garlic makes, but I know guys who marinate their chicken breast in garlic, and then basically you can slice it into little strips, almost like a worm, and you just thread it onto your hook. So 1/2 chicken breast, man, you could probably feed you, if the bream are biting, you could catch enough bream for a week on one chicken breast fillet. Probably get maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 baits out of a chicken breast fillet if you slice it thin and into strips. So yeah, I reckon it's worth a go. Oh, maybe I should do a video just on fishing with chicken and see how many different fish I could catch. Okay, all right, Jeffrey Morfitt. Oh, hey, g'day Jeff, how are you, mate? Have I tried fly fishing in the estuaries? No, I haven't. It's just, once again, it's one of those things, I've got so many things to choose from. I know, you know, white coloured flies would certainly do well. White's a really good colour for a lot of fish. And I know that a lot of different species are caught on flies, but no, I haven't. I don't own a fly rod or a fly reel. I'm planning on a few different things at the moment. I'm going to be doing some slide baiting. I've got some new rods for slide baiting off the beach with large live baits, so that's another different thing, but it's a matter of time, Jeff, what I can do. And I'm trying to simplify my life and remove other things so that I can devote more time to making fishing videos and doing fishing teaching videos, which is good. I did have a catering company. I've done that all my life, where I've basically been a chef. I used to have a commercial kitchen, and I've done a lot of corporate catering, lots of people's weddings and different things. And I've still been doing some cooking and catering, but I'm turning the catering tap off. So I'm narrowing it down. No more cooking. No more cooking. Fishing, which is cool. It's great that I can do something which I enjoy and share it with all of you guys who are out there. So just need the next question coming right up. Okay, Frizzle, you're back again. Have you tried to get salmon on artificials? Not deliberately. I have done a little bit of beach fishing with soft plastics, because that's another thing. I'd like to just walk the beach flicking plastics. I have caught salmon on paddle tail soft plastics off the beach. That was actually up near Borley Point, which is just south of where I live. A beach called, what's it called? Anyway, it's the beach in between Borley Point and Nuggin Headland, where I got some salmon on a paddle tail soft plastic, which was probably about 12 centimeters long and in a kind of a pilchardy fish type color. But yeah, so undoubtedly soft plastics work for salmon, but it's not my normal habit to do that. All right. Okay, fact-based. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Fact-based, really appreciate that. It's something new for me. Super chats, it's awesome. Thank you so much. Can you justify $350 for beach worming catching? Okay, for 2 hours beach worming catching. Well, based on the value of learning that skill, and you're learning a skill for life, and I can teach you in one lesson, and then you're good to catch beachworms for the next 20 years or whatever it might be. I mean, you'll save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Not only that, it's an incredible joy catching beachworms. You know, you talk to anyone who's a beachwormer, once they start catching beachworms, they like that as much as fishing. It's a valuable skill. And I mean, essentially, that $350 for 2 hours, I generally, you know, I don't say stop at 2 hours. I basically am devoted to spending time with you until you are successful. When you are successful, which is, I always really enjoy people catching their first few beachworms. That's my whole goal, is to get you actually being successful and catching beachworms. So yeah, not a problem, because you know, just a normal fishing guide charges $500 for half a day, and by the time I do that, it's half a day. So $350 is I don't have a problem with that. Okay, next question. I'm looking at Blake Kirkwood. Can you do a video on black? No, you've already. Oh, another person asking that question about blackfish. Alrighty. Well, maybe I should do it much sooner. A video on blackfish. Okay, we've got Melon Funkel. Where would you fish near Malua Bay? Oh, Malua Bay. That's south of me. I don't know that stretch of the coast very well. I'm very familiar with the area from Bendalong, which is north of Milton. You've got Bendalong, then Lake Conjola. I'm very familiar with Bendalong all the way down to Borley Point area. That's pretty much the stretch of coast where I live, and that I mainly frequent is that stretch of coast. So I could find out, but at this point in time, no, not really. Okay. All right. All right, so Philip Vasello says, I read that brim love corn. Is this true? Philip, I don't know. I do know that carp love corn in the freshwater. They're one of the best. That's one of the best baits for carp. So, I mean, it's possible. And trout like corn. Because when I've fished for trout in Lake Jindabyne, corn is one of the things that you use for burley when you're fishing from the shore. You mix corn with sand into like handfuls, and you chuck that out off the shore as burley for trout. But yeah, I figure I don't know, they probably eat it. So that's an interesting one. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm just waiting on my next question, which is from Rick Plale. Big salmon ready to run the West Coast, Roger. What's a great lure? So I believe that's the big salmon on the West Coast are south of Perth. We've got a couple of Rogers Fishing members who live in Perth who like to target the salmon. I think salmon lures, if you're throwing a solid lure, it's a little bit like Taylor. You know, a nice shiny metal lure, which is of sufficient weight to be able to cast the distance that you want to get. I mean, typically, if you had a lure that was the size of a small bait fish, which might be, say, about 8 centimeters or 10 centimeters long, that would be good. Anything that replicates a small fish. You could use hard body lures, you know, bib lures, but not deep diving ones that dive to only maybe a metre or so. Some of the Mulloway large bib lures, they only dive to about 1 metre or 1.5 metres when you're flicking them off the rocks or off the beach. Salmon go for all those sorts of things. Sometimes they are fussy. It depends on what they're feeding on. But I think if you just stuck to some nice shiny metal lures, probably in the 60 gram sort of weight, would be the go. Otherwise, I'd stick to your good old muleys, mate. Muleys are good bait. Okay, so I've got Kit_C. Do you use any sinker when using live bait? How long would the leader be with the rig you showed when fishing with live bait? Okay, I do use a sinker if I'm fishing for flathead with live bait, or even if I was fishing for mulloway with live bait. I want my bait to be lower down near the bottom. If you have no sinker, then the fish just swims around. Sorry, move my hand that way. The fish just swims around everywhere, and it can swim and it can stay near the surface. You really need that sinker to take your live bait down towards the bottom where it can be kind of swimming around. It's restricted by the sinker, which is kind of, it's like a fish that's struggling or in trouble, and that attracts the fish. But yeah, definitely I would use a sinker with that. Okay. How long would the leader be? Okay, well, I think probably, if I'm fishing, look, okay, I'll just say what I do. If I'm fishing for flathead in the lake and I'm using live bait, I only have a 30 or 40 centimetre leader. If I'm fishing for flathead, that's the normal thing. Would be similar if I was fishing off the beach as well. Okay, Melon Funkel, salmon surf poppers, gulp soft plastic worms. Tried them, rate them. I haven't tried either of those, Melon. I haven't tried surf poppers, and I haven't tried the plastic worms, although I'm tempted. I was reading an article recently where a gentleman was using the plastic worms off the beach and catching mulloway on plastic worms, flicking into gutters on the edges of sandbars. So that sounded pretty exciting to me. Okay. Alrighty, well, I must admit I'm having a bit of assistance tonight with the questions because on the chat I can't see everybody's questions, so I've got some help with me bringing up questions. And I'm just going to put my headphones in. Technology is interesting. You know, obviously I'm a good fisherman, but getting used to technology is another thing. Okay, I don't have my, just if you hold on for a second guys, I'm just going to play around here. Okay, how do I do that? Yep. That one? Yep. Okay, so I'm sorry guys. Oh, I've been having some fun tonight with all this stuff. It's cool. But you know, how do you learn anything? You got to get into it and have a go. And it's actually been fun. So with regards to Rogers Fishing is like an online fishing club. And it's something that I started about 15 months ago. And essentially you pay a monthly subscription. And for that you get access to all of my fishing courses, the estuary course, the beach fishing masterclass, the beach worming masterclass. Also, as I've mentioned during the teaching, I do a fortnightly Zoom session. And I'm normally teaching, as part of that Zoom, I'll have a particular topic that I'll be teaching on, and then we have a time of Q&A where we just really enjoy each other's company, lots of questions, and I've been finding that people have been getting a lot out of that. There's a lot of content in the Zoom sessions, so I can really recommend those. So if you're considering being part of a fishing club, if you don't live near a fishing club, you get to see me, ask me questions in person every fortnight if you want to join the Zooms. And also you have access to the fishing courses and the estuary course, which is up and running now and I'm working on. So all you got to do to join is actually go to rogersfishing.com and you can join the community. You can obviously buy some fishing courses. I try to put as much quality content up on YouTube as I can, but obviously there's a lot of stuff I can't cover. Every video that I make on YouTube, I try to teach to the best of my ability, but we can certainly achieve a lot more when we actually have an ongoing relationship through rogersfishing.com. So make sure you join. Okay, so I'm just going to go over here.
I know, for example, my
where you
estuary
can see
fishing
this is what I
course
put up during
is
my teaching.
$249 if you buy it.
Essentially, you can join
But
for
it's
3
actually
months.
27 plus another 4 or 5 videos. It's more than 30
access to
videos
all the courses.
in that
You
estuary
could join
fishing
for
course,
3
and that
months
alone
then
is
leave after 3 months,
$249, but you get
I would
access
hope
to
that you would
everything as a
stay
member
and be part of our
of
growing
Rogers Fishing.
community.
It's
Or
something
if you
that I'm really
decided to join
enjoying
for 6 months, it's a little bit cheaper per month.
actually made
and
some
then the
great
same
friends
thing
all around
for
Australia,
12 months.
fishermen in different
It
areas,
costs less that
and
way.
we all have a lot
If
to
you join
share,
for
a
a
lot
year,
of
it works out at
collective
$20 a
knowledge,
month. And
which is
for all the
growing
existing
all the time.
Rogers Fishing members,
So
the foundation members of Rogers Fishing, nothing changes
it would be
with your membership. It's an
I
ongoing.
was wondering what I was going to say, but now we're going to come back
ongoing
to
Okay. Okay, so Kevin donated. Wow, man, that's generous of you, mate. I really appreciate it. Means I can buy myself a bottle of red wine or put some petrol in the car when I go fishing. That's awesome, mate. Thank you so much. This is a whole new thing for me. And it's great to be able to devote more time to it, to actually stop doing my normal job, or, you know, minimize those things so that I can devote time to teaching. You know, we've got current members of Rogers Fishing. I have people in Western Australia, in Perth. I've got some fantastic members in that part of the world. We've got Brian from Perth. He's a legend. Actually, he's an incredible fisherman, really skilled fisherman. You know, when I meet these people around Australia, oh man, so much I'd love to go and see them. But hopefully one day I can actually get over to West Aussie and meet people over there. We've also got Troy, who lives in Melbourne. He's super keen, and he's always in the Zooms every time. Then we have John up on the Gold Coast. We've got people all over the place, really enthusiastic. And actually, it's amazing how you can make friends even by Zoom, which we do through the Rogers Fishing membership. Thank you, Robert, for your donation. Man, I feel quite humbled by that, by people actually helping me with my fishing stuff. Thank you very much. So the reason I am actually doing this live tonight, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is to obviously bring some good teaching around those baits, and I know the 4 baits that I covered tonight in those little videos that I made, if you use those baits and employ them, they'll be successful. But a big part of it was to let you know about the launch of my new estuary fishing course. So with that particular fishing course, I cover all the foundational aspects of estuary fishing, and as to, you know, when you go down to a lake or a river, where do you go? What influences you in where you decide to go fishing? And then when you go fishing, you know, what are you fishing for? What is your tactics? What is your strategy? So I cover a whole range of things. I cover land-based estuary fishing because there's a lot of people who don't have boats, but you're most definitely not restricted if you don't have a boat. It's great if you do, but you know, there's heaps of amazing estuary fishing options for boat fishermen and land-based fishermen. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that they've got so many good things that they can do, so much fun that they can have out there seeking all the wonderful fish that we have. Michael Clayton. G'day, Michael. How are you, mate? Thank you for your kind words, mate, about the membership. Michael lives near Wollongong, which is a great area. He's actually not that far from me, so hopefully we get to have a fish together sometime, Michael. You know, I have mentioned that to you. And that offer stands. that rock fishing offer. We'd have a great time, mate. We really would. You know. John, you've asked about when fishing with pilchards, what size ganged hooks do I use? The standard size for ganged hooks is 4.0. If you've got smaller pilchards, like if you know, sometimes when you buy blocks of pilchards, they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller. So if you had smaller pilchards, you could use a 3.0. I tend to just at the moment use a 3 gang. Traditionally, people use 4 ganged hooks, but I use 3 gangs because, to be honest, I just was buying them from Kmart. I was just in Kmart. They sell these pre-packaged sets of ganged hooks. They have them in 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. So usually I'd go down there and buy about 20 packs at a time. Is it hard, Chris Doran, what was your question? Is it hard to teach a dog old dog new tricks? No way. Old dogs can learn all the time. I'm an old dog. I can learn new tricks. I'm into learning new tricks. Covenant donated $20. Did you fix your fishing microphone? Oh man. I don't care if I get wet when I'm down at the beach, but I forget. You know, I'm not used to, I normally have a microphone kind of about here. It's just this little thing. It's got a little furry cover on it. It makes it look like I've got a hairy chest sticking out my chest. But that particular spot where I was fishing last week, it was very similar to when I was fishing at North Narrabeen, and I did that video on whiting fishing a couple of weeks with my friend Laurie. We fished right in the corner of the beach, almost on the rocks. Like we were, oops, there goes my phone. We were standing virtually in line with where the rocks meet the sand, and we were casting our lines probably only 2 meters onto the sand from the rocks. And as you know in that video, I didn't fish that long. We could have caught our bag limit of whiting. It was awesome, but we caught 10 whiting pretty quickly, and we were content with that. So we just went home and had a coffee. But okay, so I'll get to that in a minute. Alrighty, so anyways, I was getting back to that video that I did last week on the beach. It was the same thing as Narrabeen. I fished in the corner because of the conditions, and I got a double hook up on trevally and brim, and I really only fished for 30-40 minutes. So there's a lot to be said for fishing in the corner of a beach. Anyway, I'm not quite sure how we got onto that. I forgot the question. So what was the next question? So Tight Lines from the UK loves watching my videos from the UK. Thank you very much, mate. It's great to hear from people all around the world. I get quite a few people from, you know, the US, from California, from all sorts of different places replying, putting comments on my videos, which is, I always like to say hello to them and just acknowledge their comment. It's awesome. So thank you very much. Okay, Philip's asked a good question. What's a good hook for catching salmon? Well, I catch a lot of salmon on worms, and I'm just using a long shank hook. I normally use about a size 1.0. I use a larger long shank than when I'm fishing for whiting, because you still catch whiting, but if you hook bigger fish, that's okay. Otherwise, it depends on the bait that you're using, because you've got to match the hook to the bait that you're using. If you're using pilchards, I like to use a 4.0 hook with a stinger, or a bait keeper hook, which is about a size 2 or size 4 bait keeper. I love using the stinger with a 4.0 hook if I'm using a half pilchard. I often still use, if I don't have ganged hooks, I'll use a 4.0 hook with a stinger and a whole pilchard. Excuse me. Chris, do I peel prawns before putting them on the hook? A lot. Yep. When I'm fishing off the rocks for drummer or brim or different species, I always peel the prawns. And what I do is I chuck the head and you know, the skin of the prawn. I chuck that in as burley. I use the head for burley, and I put on a peeled prawn for bait. Okay, Roger, what's the first wow moment that comes to mind from your beach fishing? Okay, I've had lots of wow moments, but one thing that gave me a lot of pleasure when I was beach fishing was I wanted to start with nothing. In other words, no bait. I just wanted to use my skills, not go to the tackle shop. Obviously I had rod and reel and hook and stuff. So I went down, this was at Crescent Head on the north coast. I went down to the local, the boat ramp, where they clean the fish, and there's a couple of bins where they clean the fish. I opened the lid and there's all fish frames and skeletons and heads. I grabbed a fish head out of the bin. It was a snapper head, I think. I waded across the creek. I got the snapper head and I waved the snapper head in the sand. I caught myself 20 nice beach worms. That afternoon I went fishing off the beach with the beach worms. I caught some whiting. As the sun started to set, I thought I'm going to put a line out for something a little bit bigger. So I then filleted some whiting. I put on some whiting fillet and threw that out. And there happened to be some really big tailor in the 2 to 3 kilo size tailor, so which are really big solid tailor. So I nailed 4 massive tailor on whiting fillet. But what was the most pleasing thing for me that day is that I just started with using my skills to catch some worms, and then I basically traded up from the worms to the whiting, from the whiting to the tailor, and that was so much fun. Can you get mullet on any beach, Greg? Okay, Greg. Well, mullet typically do inhabit the beaches a lot. I see a lot of mullet when I'm beach worming. They seem to be attracted to the pilchard smell. Very often when I'm waving my bait, I see mullet in the surf. Where I live on the south coast, there's a lot of mullet in the surf. I don't actually fish for them to catch them in the surf. I normally locally I catch mullet in the lake for bait, or I go down to the local harbour at Ulladulla because that's a good spot to catch mullet. I often catch mullet down in the harbour, but not off the beach. Okay, Chris says, do I like tuna oil and pellets for burley? Yep, very good. Very good for brim, trevally. When you're burling, when you're fishing out of a boat, or if you're fishing off the rocks, that'd be very good burley. Okay, so so Philip Vassilo asks, what's your target fish? Philip, I don't have one. I love eating whiting. I love eating flathead. I like to catch fish that I like to eat. I really like drummer. Drummer is almost my favourite eating fish. It's amazing. Drummer fishing off the rocks, great fun. Very hard fighting fish. And drummer flesh is very similar to flathead. Even though they're a dark black fish, their flesh is white and juicy. Oh, it's awesome. Incredible. Groper, I love eating groper. I love fishing for mulloway as well. I mean, all of them. Okay, so where am I? Okay, so you've asked Roger, have you ever used a feather hook when beach fishing? No, I haven't. Okay, I'm just reading from the phone comments because it's not working on my screen. Okay, so Aidan, what kind of things affect hookup rate? I get lots of bites but don't hook up often while fishing, even after changing hook sizes, and how hard I strike. It's interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, Aidan, you need to have sharp hooks, but nowadays you can buy, chemically sharpened hooks. You can buy hooks that are sharp. When you are getting a bite, in the most simplest basic sense, often fish will hit and bite at a bait, but they don't actually pick it up in their mouth and start swimming away with it. It's like, I wait, you feel that knock, but when you feel a steady pull, you know that the fish actually has the bait in. You can only have confidence that the fish has your bait in its mouth when it's actually steadily pulling the line. So very often you've got to wait where you get that couple of knocks, and as soon as you feel you know it's in its mouth, you know it's actually got your bait and is starting to swim away with it, that's when you lean into it to set the hook. That's what I do. I'll wait. I'll hear the knock. I feel the knock, 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 knock. As soon as it starts to swim off with it, I lean into it and set the hook. Okay, next question is from Chris Doran. Roger, what fillet knife were you using to a previous video? I like Victorinox. Well, I used to be a butcher. I've done my apprenticeship as a butcher. That was my first job. I worked as a butcher for 6 years. I liked being a butcher. And all of my knives when I was a butcher were Victorinox knives. I have a few knives that are butcher's boning knives. I'm not really that precious about, I mean, you've probably seen on my videos, I use a chef's knife sometimes to fillet fish. I use a boning knife, so long as it's reasonably sharp. Me personally, I don't like knives that are too flexy. I prefer like a stiff knife. I know that professional fish boners use a flexible knife, but I've never been taught that way. I prefer to have a knife that's not flexible. Okay, so next question is Philip. I've got to read that. I have done some research in using hooks with different colours with tinsel. Okay. Look, all of those things I think would work, Philip. I know that, see, a lot of lures that are used for trolling out in the ocean essentially are a hook with brightly coloured tinsel and feathers on it. And that's what they drag behind a boat for yellowfin tuna and all sorts of things. And the fish love it. Bonito like it, Taylor like it, all of those pelagic fish like that sort of thing. Okay, so I've got a Rick Plow. Okay. Rick wants to know if there are worms on West Coast beaches. I would really like to know. Seriously, if I was over there, I'd love to do a reconnaissance mission and go to different beaches and try it out and test it out. So far, no one has been able to confirm whether there are worms in WA or not. However, it's the same kind of latitude and longitude to where we would catch them in New South Wales, just the opposite side of Australia. And I do know that beach worms, they move location when they're just really small. They live in the water, they don't live in the sand. When they're like about 5 millimeters, between 5 millimeters to 18 millimeters in length, they actually just float around in the water. So they can float from one beach to the next, round one headland to the next, and they can basically be redistributed around the place because the first part of their life is actually in the water and then they actually bury into the sand. So they can certainly, be washed around with ocean currents. So I'd love to be able to find out if they are in Western Australia. So we've got Alex Guinea. Hi, is there a better season to fish off the beach, or is it more to do with tides? You can fish off the beach all year round. It's awesome all year round. However, right now, April and May is an epic time to fish off the beach for nearly all species of fish. Probably one of my favourite times to fish off the beach is between March and May. So the next 2 months, and I'm talking about where I live on the East Coast, but from March to May is fantastic for beach fishing. The water doesn't cool down in a hurry. The ocean water takes a long time to warm up, and then it takes a long time to cool down. It doesn't really get cold until June and July. So at the moment is like really good time to fish. Okay, so Al Panzan. So Roger, is it legal to use legal fish as bait here in New South Wales? You've mentioned using whiting fillets as bait. Is that generally okay? Look, it's totally okay. You could use any legal size fish for chop it up for bait. You could catch anything. You could use a bit of mulloway for bait if you want. It doesn't matter. If you catch a fish and it's legal size, slab it up. In fact, you know, most fish flesh is good bait. Whether it be mullet, salmon, tailor. Tailor fillets are really good bait. It's great bait. Okay, so I'm just looking at the questions. Kevin, I bought a quality Perspex mullet trap box, but haven't used it yet. Do they work well, or is it a gimme? I haven't used one of those Perspex boxes because I just use a glass bowl, as you probably know. I buy a Pyrex glass salad bowl from Coles or Woolies for about $8 or $9. And then I use some fly screen netting over the top with some elastic around it. I did recently go catching live mullet with a friend who had one of those big Perspex boxes that you're talking about. I had my bowl in the water, he had his box in the water. I got heaps of mullet, he didn't get any. So on that particular occasion, we were in the same spot and his Perspex box didn't catch any mullet. But I don't really know the reason for that, because I was with him and I was explaining what to do, and you know, what to do with the bread and etc., and how it works in the trap. But on that particular occasion, he didn't have much success with the Perspex. Alrighty, so I need to look at another question. Okay, so just while I'm waiting for another question, the next Rogers Fishing Zoom is this Thursday night. When I normally do my Rogers Fishing Zooms, they are from 7:30 p.m. till, normally go for about 2 hours. You know, if we're all enjoying the, you know, the time together and there's lots of questions, I don't, you know, I don't put a time limit on doing those Zooms really. So we have a Zoom this Thursday. So if you join Rogers Fishing today or tomorrow, you could join the Zoom with us on Thursday night. And okay, so I'm just going to look at another question. So Philip, you've been very, you're asking lots of questions, Philip. Does every beach have beachworms? Okay. Some beaches seem to be better than others, but pretty much where I lived in the northern beaches, I'm not aware of any of the northern beaches that don't have worms in Sydney. There are 21 beaches between Manly and Palm Beach, and I'm pretty sure you can catch worms on every single one. And I would think that where we're living down here on the south coast, it would be similar. David Young says, what is the biggest fish ever caught? Well, I've not been a person who's really targeted marlin and yellowfin tuna. When I used to fish in my boat, I used to mainly like to fish for snapper and mulloway and kingfish. The biggest mulloway I've caught at this stage are around the 20 kilogram mark. I've got a number of fish around 20 kilos. Biggest kingfish I've caught is 15 kilos. The biggest snapper I've caught is only 5.4 kilos at this point in time. I've caught lots of 4 and 5 kilo snapper, but I haven't really gone above 5.4 kilos. I caught lots of sharks. The biggest, I have caught yellowfin tuna, but only small ones, about 20 kilos. I guess I've just caught a lot of the normal fish that people fish for. So if that answers your question about that. Okay, Jeffrey Morfitt. Roger, have you noticed a decline in garfish? Not here, Jeff, no. My neighbour fishes for garfish all the time. He catches heaps. He's an Italian guy. He makes up a dough. I do know that he puts garlic and parmesan in his dough that he uses for garfish. Makes tiny little balls. And you know what? He doesn't even burley. If I was fishing for garfish, I'd burley. He just fishes with a little float with his bait about 30 centimetres under his float, walks out to the edge of the weed bank and flicks it out. No burley, no nothing. He catches himself 15 garfish, decent sized garfish, on a regular basis. And he's not the only one. There's other ones who do. That's in Baril Lake where I live, but certainly not where I live. I haven't noticed a decline in garfish. All right, I'm just going to look at the next question. Awesome, I'm just looking at those questions. All right, so Philip Vasello has a, do you use fresh mussels for bream? My father used to use mussels. I haven't used them, but my father was a very good bream fisherman and he used to use mussels. Do you like mud crabs and sand crabs? Chris Doran. Yeah. There's not many mud crabs where I live. Just the odd one. There's lots of blue swimmer crabs where I live. Okay, Sayo says, is there a general tide that is better? There's benefits to all the different phases of the tide. At low tide, the fish have to be in the deeper areas in the gutters. They can't come up onto the shallow part. So it's almost like the fish are more concentrated in the deeper areas at low tide. When the tide's coming in, the fish start to move in because they're wanting to access areas that they couldn't access at low tide looking for food. So, but I fish, I've got one of my good friends who's one of the best fishermen that I know. He just goes fishing regardless of the tide. He catches so many fish and he just goes fishing. Okay, so all right. John Keynes asked, "G'day Roger, do you fish all year round for sand whiting?" I've found in my local area that it's a bit of an interesting one because typically whiting don't come on in numbers until about December, and you don't get that many during the year. This is off the beach. Because I've been devoting so much time to beach fishing, I haven't fished in the lake a lot. So I tend to think, John, that no, not all year round. Okay. Thank you for your encouragement, Philip. I really appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. And Kevin, thanks a lot, mate. I know you've got to go. I hope to see you soon. Okay, festering corpse. I like that. Hey, Roger. Been using your stinger hook setup. It's great. I caught a nice snapper off the rocks that had missed the big hook and got hooked with the stinger. All the best. Yeah, thanks heaps, mate. Yeah, it's a cracker. Those stinger hooks are really good. Ryan Sheen, I must ask, what size hooks and line capacity do you suggest for salmon? If you're fishing off the beach, salmon are not sensitive. They're not a fish that, you know, would benefit you from using lighter line. So I think if I was, as a general rule, off the beach, I'd use 20-pound line. And I'd probably use, if I'm using a strip like a fillet bait or a pilchard, I'd use a 4-0 size hook. Otherwise, if I'm using worms, I'd use a larger long shank. Okay. Philip Vasello, do you use any feeder floaters when fishing bottom? Fill them up with burley? Not at this stage, no, I don't. Chris Doran, Jovan, Popovic, Roger, it's a pleasure watching your videos. Very similar methods work in South England. Oh, thank you very much, Jovan. England, eh? Mate, it wouldn't matter where I lived. I would be out there. I would be into it. Fishing in England or anywhere. Okay, so Chris Doran, I like outgoing tide for jacks and incoming tide for barra. Wow, okay. So Chris, you must live up pretty far up north. Can't say I've ever fished for jack. I've actually never caught a jack or a barra. But I've seen lots of stuff on jacks and barras. Seems pretty exciting. Okay, Sayo says, have you fished in Botany Bay? No. When I lived in Sydney, I lived on the north side and I never really fished on the south side. Although Botany Bay is epic. There'd be so much great fishing in Botany Bay. It's a great area. Pause says, I fish this rock wall that's usually really good with a multitude of species during winter. However, since summer, I have literally caught nothing but shovel-nosed sharks. Sometimes 3 to 5 a night. Any tips? Okay, you fish a rock wall that's good in winter, but summer, I reckon don't fish the rock wall in summer. That's all I can think of. Yeah, try other options in summer, because if you consistently fish there in summer and all you're getting is shovel-nosed sharks, the only other thing is maybe try a different bait. what bait are you using when you're fishing off the rock wall? Chris Doran says, do you prefer mono or braid for fishing? Both of them have different applications. I much prefer mono off the beach because I've cut myself using braid a couple of times off the beach, and it's just, I forget. And if I hook a big fish and it runs, and I'm used to putting my finger on the line because I like putting my finger on the line. I like the feel of putting my finger on the line, but if you get a hard run, the braid goes across your line, it just cuts you. So my preference is to use braid for casting lures, for fishing with soft plastics in the lakes and rivers. But otherwise, I'd much prefer to use mono. Philip Vasella, why do fish not bite as much when the wind is blowing east? I'm not sure whether they do bite as much or not, because, and I'm not sure if you mean a straight easterly or a northeasterly. Northeasterlies fish bite fine. It's just a matter of fishing and getting out of the wind. So I'm not quite sure if that affects a straight easterly or not. I don't normally fish in a straight easterly because it's just not pleasant. Okay. John Keane says, thanks, Roger. Yellowfin tend to move to the top of the gulfs during winter. Cheers, tight lines. Thanks, mate. No worries. Henry Malseed. Hi, Roger. G'day, Henry. How are you, mate? David Young, you can catch brim all year round on the beach. Yeah, I catch brim a lot when I go to fish for whiting. I catch heaps of brim on worms. Okay. John, Roger, what hooks do you use for sand whiting? I've traditionally used mustard long shank hooks. A lot of whiting fishermen use a size 2. I tend to use a slightly bigger. I would probably on average use a 1.0 mustard long shank hook, but you don't have to use the mustard brand. There's Gamakatsu, or there's a few different ones that make what they call worm hooks. Yeah, they make a worm hook, which is basically a long shank hook. Okay. Now, one of the reasons I've started working on this estuary fishing course is because so many people are interested in estuary fishing and want to learn about estuary fishing. In fact, more people fish in the estuaries than anywhere else. More people fish in our rivers and lakes than they do out in the ocean or off the beach. So I just really wanted to address that area of helping people to be more confident to fish in the estuary. So that's the whole reason I've put together the estuary fishing course, is because I get a lot of people asking about it, along with rock fishing, which I haven't started the rock fishing yet, but I get so many people asking me about rock fishing, so I'll be getting onto that as soon as I can. Alrighty, so I'm just looking in the questions. Philip says, there's only one fish I have not caught. That's a kingfish. It's my dream fish. Maybe in a few weeks' time I get lucky when I go to Portland, Victoria. Okay, I don't know if Portland's a good spot for kingfish or not, but kingfish, it's good for using lures or live bait for kingfish. They like squid. I've caught a lot of kingfish on squid. Okay, Sayo says, when you are beach fishing, how do you feel the bite better if it's windy? I either cast directly into the wind so that my line is coming straight back at me, or I face away from the wind and hold my rod down low. That's about all I do to feel the bite a bit better. It's hard because in a strong wind you can get a big bow in your line. How do I do that? Everything's in reverse on here. Anyway, you know what I mean. You get a big bow in your line, but yeah, I try to fish straight into the wind. If it's blowing a nor'easter, I'll actually cast in a slightly northeast direction into the wind and face straight into it, or do the exact opposite. Fraser Slayer, best bait for salmon bonito, thanks. Okay, so I reckon bonito love pilchards. They love that oily fish. I've caught heaps of bonito on pilchards. So I'd recommend pilchards actually for both salmon. I reckon the next best bait, I mean beach worms are great for salmon, but probably the next best bait is pilchards. Okay. Okay, so Philip, you mentioned that the east wind in Victoria, fish don't bite as much, especially in a boat. Okay. All I know is from all my years of surfing, surfers hate an easterly. A straight on easterly is terrible. Usually it's crap weather when there's a straight on easterly. So I can probably understand that. Well, that's good advice, Philip, that you've mentioned for Sayo, where you say hold the line with your fingers to feel the bites. Yeah, that's what my habit is. I hold the line with my fingers. Okay, Chris, do you prefer to eat silver brim or yellowfin brim to pikey brim? I don't think I've ever eaten a pikey brim, so I can't comment. And I don't really mind whether I eat a silver or yellowfin brim. I enjoy both. Okay. Michael Clayton. G'day, Michael. Have you had any luck using kanji bait in the estuary? Whiting smashed it the other day off the beach. Wow. But interested in the results. I haven't tried it, Michael. It's interesting. I know that where I live, there's actually kanji growing inside the lake, close to the entrance, but obviously where the salt water is coming in and out. So that's interesting. Kanji is quite amazing. Lots of fish like it. Okay, Philip. Roger, have you found that flathead guts is one of the best baits? I've never tried flathead guts, but I reckon, Philip, that any fish guts, because fish are basically scavengers. You know, they scavenge. It's like brim. They eat anything. That's why mullet gut is a really good bait. But yeah, why not, man? Put a bit of flathead gut on. Okay, Moe. Hey, Roger, have you fished for Murray cod? No, I haven't. I subscribed to freshwater fishing for a number of years, so I used to read a lot of articles on freshwater fishing, and I've done a reasonable amount of trout fishing, both with lures and with baits, and I really enjoy trout fishing, but I haven't fished for Murray cod yet. Sayo says, is there anything different from fishing on the beach to an estuary? Any big difference? Massive. The massive difference is in an estuary, it's so still and quiet. Apart from if you've got some tidal flow, but on the beach you have waves, there's a lot of water movement, so it's quite different. You can, although when you're beach fishing, once you've done it for a while, you can tell a bite really easily, but yeah, there's just a lot more action on a beach compared to an estuary, which is often sometimes you might think it's a bit boring because it's so still and so quiet. Okay, Chris says, Roger, it has been a masterclass on aspects of fishing. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, mate. Okay, Philip, Roger, have you ever tried using a small squid insert, a pilchard in it, and a half inch? No, I haven't tried that. So what you do, tried using a small squid. Putting a pilchard inside a small squid. Yeah, sounds good to me. I haven't tried it though. Hey Troy, tip for holding your braid surf fishing is a thin piece of rubber tubing over the end of your index finger. Yes, that would be right, Troy. I agree 100%. I'm not kind of, well, I used to wear finger stalls when I was fishing for mulloway with heavy lines, or even fishing for snapper, because in the early days we used to fish with hand lines for mulloway and snapper a lot. And you get a big fish, we used to use a bit of push bike inner tube on our fingers to so we didn't cut our fingers. Okay, Chris, how are the insects when beach fishing, Roger? No big deal. They don't seem to be a problem. Jesse Osborne. Hi, Roger. What is the most impressive catch you ever got, excluding Vanessa? That must be my nephew. G'day, Jesse. How are you, mate? No, Vanessa was definitely my best catch, mate, by a long way. David Young. What is the best bait to use on the beach? Man, David, there's more than one really good bait. Although, you know, I am a beachworm enthusiast, and you catch a variety of different species. You almost never go home without a feed using beachworms. That's one of the reasons of why it's really good to actually take the time to learn. It's worth investing the time. Greg says, Roger, can you give us the Italian guy's dough recipe? I'll have to ask him. I do know he does use that fine grated Parmesan. Yep, so he does use Parmesan and garlic. Not sure if he's got any other goodies in there. His name's Joe. I'll have to ask Joe. I do know he's very successful. If you've been enjoying tonight's live, make sure that you like and subscribe, because it helps. Everything helps with the whole YouTube thing. It really helps my channel. Helps me to make more videos. Hit that like button. Because it really affects the algorithm on YouTube, and it just causes them to highlight my videos a bit more. Okay, so Mark Ibrahim. Good evening, Roger. G'day, Mark. Any recommendations on a good beach to fish close to Brisbane? Surfers Paradise seems good, but many swing there. Worth a try. Well, Mark, I'm familiar with the Gold Coast because I used to surf up there a lot. So I'm familiar with Duran Bar, Greenmount, all that area, and then along to Currumbin. I think, it's actually a great area, even though, from what I've seen there, the beach formations look awesome, right up along the stretch. And, it's quite a big area. I don't think crowds would be a problem, really, because there's a lot of beach there. It's just a matter of reading the beach. I'd recommend looking at my video, How to Read a Beach for beach fishing, because that'll give you some insight in how to choose fishing spots. But I think the Gold Coast area is fine. You could go south of the Tweed. There would probably be some good options there as well. It just depends on how far you want to travel, but depending on where you live, I think the Gold Coast would be okay. Sayo, do you use a heavy sinker on the beach? Basically, it depends on how much current or sideways sweep there is on the beach. The general rule is to use the least sinker as you need to hold the bottom. If you're unable to hold the bottom, then you need to use a slightly bigger sinker or a star sinker or something that will help you hold the bottom. Or if you're wanting to get more distance in casting, you need to use a heavier sinker to help you cast out further. Okay. Chris, what is the most unusual catch off the beach for you, Roger? Unusual. I did catch a big yellow catfish one time, which is quite bizarre. You know those things with the whiskers, like it was out of the fresh water or something. I caught that on beach worms. I mean, I've caught lots of sharks off the beach, bronze whalers. I've caught some big bronze whalers, but they're not really unusual. I've caught I've caught lots of eagle rays, banjo rays, every type of ray you can imagine. Matthew Govender, it was all great watching your videos. I learned a lot from watching your videos. Matthew, South Africa. G'day, mate. Hi to South Africa. What a great spot. I've been to South Africa. I've been to Port Elizabeth and Jeffreys Bay. I've been surfing at Jeffreys Bay. Great place. It really reminds me of Australia. The beaches and the vegetation on the beaches in South Africa is very similar to Australia. Simon, hey Rog, what's a good size reel for off the beach? If you want a general, I have a light beach outfit and a heavy beach outfit, but if you want something that's kind of all round, you really got to go with, say, 20-pound line, and depending on the brand, they vary a little bit. Probably about a 6,000 size reel with 20-pound line would be just a good general size reel. Bartek, Roger, is there any way of catching mullets in some estuary systems where they are not interested in bread or dough? Like, for example, that is like Manly Lagoon. Bartek, bread is the go-to bait for mullet. If you go down to Manly Lagoon, for example, and you burley up and you throw some bread in the water, if no mullet come around, you don't, often I'll go to look for mullet, but they just might not be there, or you need to try a different spot. Sometimes they're not there. But really, you've just got to stick to using bread. Okay, Al, thank you so much for this live session, Roger. It's amazing. Thanks, Al. I really appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. Okay. So, thanks, Philip and Roger. Philip, yes. Yeah, thanks, Philip, because he's been answering lots of things. Fantastic. Alrighty. So if you guys are enjoying this, you should join Roger's Fishing. Even just test it out for a few months. Come and join us in the Zooms. We could do with some more enthusiastic fishermen. We've all got a lot that we can share with each other. I don't have everything. I've obviously been fishing for a long time, but, we can all learn from each other. So, yeah, why not? Come along and join the club. Okay, next question. Greg. We love the show, Roger. Wish you all the best. Thanks, mate. Thank you so much, guys. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. 9 o'clock. There you go. Michael Clayton. Thanks, Roger. Great insights. Talk soon. Yeah, you too, Michael. I look forward to seeing you in the Zoom. Okay. Okay. Moe, have you ever hooked onto manta ray? No. I don't know if we get manta rays in the area where I live, but no, I've never hooked a manta ray. Philip says, used a bait catcher reel on the surf big salmon caught on its own. Okay, a bait catcher reel. What's a bait catcher reel? I'm not sure. And then SA says, come up to Queensland. I'd love to come up to Queensland. Thanks. Chris says, what size leader off the beach, Roger? Do you like fluorocarbon? Yeah, I do like fluorocarbon. I've been using it lately all the time. Although I never used to. Before it came out, I just used to use mono, but I tend to stick to off the beach. I mean, some people use long leaders, but I tend to stick to only about 30 or 40 centimeters in length. Okay, Light 487. Good to see you. Sorry I missed it. Had to care for my kids. Luke. Yeah, g'day, Luke. You're familiar with me because I recognise your handle from some of the comments in the videos. Philip, like the big reels on the beach, handle turns quicker. 3-ball bearing reels. Yep. Bartek, thank you, Roger. Thanks, Bartek. Nice to meet you, mate. Okay, John. Thanks, Roger. Have to sign off. That flat battery. Cheers for the chat. Yeah, thanks a lot, John. I'll catch you later. Philip Vassallo says, love Shimano reels. Expensive but worth it. Yep, Shimano reels are very good. As you know, I have a bunch of them. What am I saying? A munger. Well, I don't know what a munger is. Okay, so Demetrius. Yep. Demetrius Karai, when targeting mulloway off the beach, what tide have you found to be the best? High tide. Although, you catch them at most times. But generally, right either side just of high tide is the best time. PK fishing bulbs. Should you burley while fishing off the beach? I often burley. I don't burley all the time, but yes, burleying off the beach is very good. You use an onion bag or something similar, and you put your burley in there, and you let it wash around in the waves and get the scent going out. It's very good. Philip says, love my pen 950 made in the USA. They are collecting items. Yep, pens are great. Awesome. That's a big pen, a 950. Okay, Nathan. Hey, Roger. Love the work you do and all the great tips. You helped me catch live mullet for the first. Thanks and happy lines. Yeah, thanks heaps, Nathan. Awesome, mate. Thank you. Philip again, Roger, I meant to say bait runner. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant, actually. Yeah, cool. Like 487, Luke, will you be doing a prawning masterclass at some point? Yeah, like there should still be prawns around now. Prawns normally come on heading into summer. November, December, January, February is really good for prawns. But I'm planning on doing that. I was actually going to be doing that as part of my estuary course. There are some subtleties around catching prawns. I used to do a lot of prawning. I love catching prawns. It's awesome. Love catching them, love eating them, love using them for bait. Okay, Jovan, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. Much appreciated, mate. Thanks, mate. Thanks heaps, Jovan. You too, mate. Okay, Chris, what do you think of Akuma egg beta reels? Yeah, they're fine, Chris. I've had some. Yeah, no problem. Just look after them like anything else, and they'll do you well. Okay, Sayo says, do you need a specific rod for lures or soft plastics? Well, you do, yeah. You've got to match your rod, your line, and your reel, and that has to be based on the weight of the soft plastics that you're using and the target species. If you're fishing for larger fish, you need to use heavier jig heads, which impacts, you know, a bunch of different things. So yeah. Peter Beedman. Hey Roger, just thought I would say hi from Bateman's Bay. G'day Peter. Yeah, g'day mate. You're not far away, just down the road. Awesome, thank you. So I'm probably going to I'll close the stream down in a minute. If you guys have got any more questions before we decide to knock off, if you want to just quickly put them in the chat, I'll answer them. Matthew, sorry Roger, when you were in South Africa, did you catch beach worms? Mate, I was in South Africa on a surf trip. I didn't even have a fishing rod or think about beach worms at the time. But if I was in South Africa now, I'd definitely look, because I think there's a high possibility. Okay, Ash. Hey Roger, love your channel. I have been hooked. What do you think of Alvi reels off the beach? Alvi reels are awesome. I love Alvi reels. My only thing about Alvi reels off the beach is the slow, because it's a one-to-one retrieve. It's slow winding your line in. Alvi reels are no good for spinning, because I've tried spinning lures with Alvis over the years, and you go nuts finding them so fast. It's possible, but yeah, I really like the direct feel of Alvis. But yeah, so in answer to the question, yeah, they're really good off the beach. Where am I? Okay. Sayo, do you like using bait or lures more? I like them both, Sayo, sorry. They're both really good. Chris, what brand of rods do you use off the beach, and what size are they? I use Shimano rods. I've got a bunch of different Shimano rods. I use my light beach rod is called a Maikuro 2. It's 10 foot long. It's spelled Maikuro and then 11 like 2. I love that as a light beach rod. Then I have a Taipan, which I use, a Shimano 12-foot Taipan, which I use for medium to heavy beach fishing, and I've got a bunch of other ones as well. Okay. Mark, do you have a separate freezer for all your bait? Yes, I do. Although my bait still sometimes finds its way into the normal freezer. I sneak it in. Okay. Pando, hey mate, great channel. What's your favourite fish to eat? I like a lot of different ones. I love flathead. I mentioned earlier I love eating drummer. I love whiting. I love mulloway. I like snapper. I like groper are really good. Most fish really. I eat salmon, you know. I happily eat Australian salmon, no problem as well. Even tailor are great if you eat them fresh or you smoke them. Philip, thanks Roger, your good knowledge. Love your work, mate. Keep it up, the good work. Thanks heaps, Phil. Thanks for all your questions and being engaged. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Chris. Thanks heaps, mate. Hope to see you again, Chris. And it's been a while since I've done a live on YouTube. And like you know, it's like the more you do things, the more you kind of get into the zone with it. So hopefully I can do some more lives coming up soon on YouTube and sort of get in the flow and get my technology working a bit better. Okay, yes. Don Coyle, have you used a side cast reel for beach fishing? Spinning reel versus side cast. I have used a side cast reel off the beach plenty of times, but not for spinning because of the slow retrieve. Okay, good night, good night, Philip. Okay, Bruce Sibthorpe. Roger, fished all my life, now age 69, watching your channel has improved my catch more than anything else I've ever done. Wow. What's your best anti-tangle rig for rough beach fishing? Ooh, I think, you know what I think, Bruce, is just fish with one hook. You know how I like to fish with two hooks a lot? I reckon you just have a single hook and you got less chance, you know. Keep it simple. That's what I reckon. Good to hear from you, Bruce, and thank you so much that my videos have helped your fishing. That's awesome. Moe, would you consider 10-foot rod for beach still viable? Yeah, 100%. 10 foot, no problem. Moe, thanks for so much for the stream. You're welcome, Moe. Philip, catch you later, Moe. Shimano. Troy Kogan, thanks, Rog. Okay, see you on Thursday, Troy. Thank you for joining. And I can't see what's going on. All right, guys, I am going to say goodbye. Thank you so much. What's this? Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your patience with the technology. And I'll see you really soon. See you in the next video. I'll catch you later.